You ever go to LinkedIn or go to a conference and see somebody else who's just nailing it with their content marketing? And I'm always curious, how are they doing it? What does it look like behind the scenes? So in this podcast, that's what we're gonna explore. I'm gonna ask dumb questions of smart people to figure out how content marketing is working these days and how you and I can take away actionable steps for our businesses. Welcome to the podcast.
Ben Wise, I am the founder of Storied.
It's easy to write off social media and be like, okay, yeah, it doesn't work.
Adapt it to who you are.
Hey, Ben, welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Ben Wise. I am the founder of Storied. We are a US-based ghostwriting studio. We specialize in helping 7+ figure founders in the B2B space turn their stories and insights into compelling LinkedIn content that either helps them generate leads or helps grow their business or do some form of grassroots PR. And we specialize in LinkedIn, although we're also piloting X or Twitter right now. Otherwise, I am a father of 4, so busy dad. And I love to read really good fiction and nonfiction, to be honest. A bit of a neuroscience geek.
So let's talk about your content journey. And like you said, you hinted at, you do ghostwriting, LinkedIn, and you do your own content marketing. Yeah, and you practice what you preach, which is always really cool. That's why one of the reasons I like talking with folks like you and you specifically is that.
Although it's harder to do it for myself. Yeah. It's a lot easier to do it for clients.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I can pump out a bunch of videos for a client. When I do want to do one of mine, I overthink it. Yeah, I know what you mean. So, so you focus on ghostwriting for LinkedIn, pretty straightforward. You serve clients in the 7-figure space. How are you getting the attention of these clients on LinkedIn? Are you getting it through your own writing? Are you DMing? Are you, is it referrals?
It's a combination. I get direct inbound through my LinkedIn content, and I have a few workflows that fall under the umbrella term proactive inbound, which is a term that I gave that strategy. And it's basically, you do things like you check profile views, you check connection requests, you check people who have engaged with your content, and then you reach out to them and proactively connect. You personalize the connection request. Or if it's a connection request, you say something like, hey, would love to know what piqued your interest, or you go into the profile and you do some intel and find out what's a good thing to call out if they fall under your ICP. And then, yeah, correct. So referral. So for instance, we have a new client. It's going really well for her. Got her like 150K lead worth approximately 150K in the very first month of the engagement. So she's already made to like warm referrals because people have literally reached out to her and said, hey, your LinkedIn content looks incredible. And then she was like, well, let me show you the man or the team behind the curtain. So all 3.
Yeah. Now, are these clients, we're going deep dive into LinkedIn, which I love. LinkedIn's my space. I live, breathe, and work in LinkedIn every day. Are these clients regularly, like what makes for a good client? You said 7 figures, but there's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah. So their ICP has to be on LinkedIn, right? It's usually B2B, and it has to make sense for them. For instance, I had someone who reached out to me, and they buy and then refurbish heavy machinery. We're talking huge machines that cost who knows how much. And I said, I don't know if it makes sense for us to work together. I mean, it's only if you're really kind of your risk aversion is very low. So we ended up not working together. But if it's another agency, or if they're the decision makers within their ICP on LinkedIn, then it makes sense for us to work together. And then the reason we go after 7+ or at least 7-figure founders is because our basic retainer is $3,450. So I want individuals for whom our services are not prohibitively expensive, but also I want them to feel like they have some skin in the game, right? I want them to feel like, hey, this is an expense. This is a serious expense or some kind of expense. I'm going to do my part. Even if we do most of the heavy lifting, I'm going to do my part to ensure that this is a success. Because we're month to month. We don't lock people into long-term retainers.
Gotcha. And you I want to talk about your team here in a little bit and how you fulfill that work and like how the magic happens.
Sure.
Like what's the secret sauce? Team and process here in a second. But like when you're talking about your audience and these folks coming to you, are they, in the marketing world, like the marketing world's when you talk to somebody who's not in marketing and you talk about marketing, it's like, oh, you're in marketing. Marketing is so big. It's like saying, oh, you're in, I'm trying to think of an analogy and I'm struggling of another industry that has like,
like you're in retail.
You're in retail.
Like, oh, wow.
Are you the buyer? Are you selling? Are you manufacturing? Are you a clerk? Or you're in tech. You're in tech.
Like, okay.
You're in IT. Right.
That's huge.
Yeah. Or online retail versus it. Yeah. Yeah. Such a huge term. Thank you for that. So when they're coming to you, are they problem aware? Like, oh, I know I need more leads and you're walking them through and you're creating demand, as they say, for your services? Or are they solution aware? I need a ghostwriter. Ben's talking about ghostwriting. Let me go hire him and his ghostwriting team.
If they're coming to us for lead gen, then they're usually at the point where they've decided that whatever it is they have going on now is not enough, right? Maybe they want to scale more. Maybe they don't like acquiring clients in whatever channel they're using now. Right? Maybe they've just done really well through word of mouth and referrals, and they've decided that they want to keep scaling because they eventually they want to sell, or they want to grow the business. They're usually aware of LinkedIn. They've usually decided that they should be on LinkedIn, and that LinkedIn is a great channel, not just for that, but for various other reasons. I mean, look at us, right? Like we connected on LinkedIn. And you invited me on your podcast. That's a great benefit, right, of being active on LinkedIn. So there are various other benefits, but they've usually determined that this is where they want to be. They want to test this channel. And either they, like I said earlier, either they saw my content or they reached out to their network and someone recommended our services.
Now, I want to talk team and process. I also want to talk about how you guys are different a little bit, because there's a lot of ghostwriters out there, individuals. You guys are your whole team. You've built this whole team.
Yeah.
Let's just start with how you're different. That's the first that I want to scratch that itch first. Like what, amongst all the ghostwriters on there, what do you think makes you guys tick?
Sure. That's a great question. So I think part of it is experience, right? I mean, I think even on LinkedIn, people tend to downplay experience, like, oh, you see posts going viral of, I hired a three-legged dog who's now my chief propulsion scientist. Like with zero experience.
You need to create a post about that with like an actual.
I did. I have put out like shit posts to ridicule that.
Okay. So for folks listening and watching, this is something I really love about Ben's content. He does have a lot of that dry humor. Like he just gives it to folks straight. Like if you're sick of all the crap and oh my gosh, that does exist on LinkedIn. Like follow Ben, you get a chuckle out of his
the platitudes, the cheap tropes, like remote work or just pay people more. Yeah. So I think part of it is experience. I've been doing this for almost 7 years. I don't think there are many other ghostwriters, at least LinkedIn ghostwriters, who can claim that. And although I think with experience you get to a point where it doesn't matter as much, I think that, if you're hiring someone, whether it's an employee or whether you want to work with an agency, you want them to have at least a few years of subject matter expertise, right? Otherwise, so I think that's just one thing where we didn't pop up like a mushroom last year after some articles came out that you can earn really good money as a ghostwriter. We've been doing this for a minute. I think the other thing is that we're very strategic, which means that we codify each client strategy. We come up with the content pillars, the angles, the aims for the account, and every single piece of content we write has to be justified, has to be strategically aligned. We literally tell the client, hey, like here's the piece of content for your approval, but also, and it is text-based, but also here's the pillar it connects with, here's the angle, here's why we're writing it. So we're very strategic and we're very transparent about our strategy, and we keep acquiring buy-in from clients so that they're behind what we're doing, and it keeps us accountable. We can't just share a piece of content and say, hey, this is for shits and giggles, or hey, we think this will go viral. And it keeps them accountable because they signed off on the strategy. So yeah, I think the next thing is process. We're very process oriented. I could talk about our process or processes for hours. But we have systems. We have a way in which we do things that we not only explain to clients so that they understand, and it's easier for them to be a collaborative partner, but we follow processes. We have a project management system, we have reporting, we have SOPs. And these things take a long time to develop. They take years. And I think another really interesting differentiator is that we can do both like really compelling storytelling, which is hard to do. It's hard to do B2B storytelling. It's hard whether you're telling us like an actual business story or you're taking a personal story, but kind of almost like inserting a Trojan horse or connecting it to what you do in your business so that it can convert people. So
can you give an example of that real quick for the listener, for the viewer, what you mean by that Trojan horse method? I think I know what you're talking about, but I want to, what's on? Sure.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of a post I put out in last month that brought in a lead that converted for $48.50 a month, which is kind of, like for us, it's pretty good. So it was a post about a client who wanted to drop our services, because they'd found a much more affordable agency that is the founders are based in the US, but they use talent from South America. So they're able to provide more services at a lower cost, right? I have my team members are in the US, they're well paid. And on the call with him, the post describes the story. I kind of say, hey, if you're considering them, then we failed. And I'm not going to try to convince you to stay with us. It just doesn't make sense, right? Our value prop is that it's quality, it's quantitative. Not that quantity doesn't matter. You get a certain amount of posts per week, but it's really, we optimize for quality. And he ended up retaining us because he himself realized that the quality does really matter. Like, right, this is someone sophisticated clientele.
Yeah.
And so he realized he didn't want to take the chance of lower quality, but much more quantity. And then as part of this post, it's very natural for me to describe some of our differentiators or value props, right? It's like in the post, I talk about how everybody is US based, right? So I call out different benefits or differentiators, but in a way that doesn't feel salesy or markety, to kind of coin a term on the spot, because it fits into the story very naturally. So this other founder reached out and said, hey, I really like that post because I hate it when people tell me that there are cheaper alternatives, right? I don't like that. And so she runs a similar business where team members are in the US. It's very high quality. She's lost clients to a cheaper alternative. And so she could relate to it. And in the process, the post, the Trojan horse is that it educates readers on our services and why they're superior.
That's a great example of a Trojan horse post. Okay. Well, that wasn't exactly what I was thinking of. So I appreciate that storytelling of you taking literally an interaction with a client and then packaging it up into a post and then just peppering in all the different things you do. And that's pretty cool.
Especially the lower you go down the post, right? Once they're committed to reading. So you don't put it immediately. You kind of tell the story, you draw them in, and then further down, you can use the space there to articulate what's special about your business, how you deliver value, maybe a mini case study, some results. So to go back to your question, we can do that. We can do more like dry expertise driven content, right? Like a listicle or a how-to or a mini case study. And so we have this nice range, which also helps to develop your personal brand, right? Because we're putting some of your personality out there. We use imagery, right? We use photos, selfies, and which is helpful. I mean, we could talk about that. I don't know where you want to go, but so we're building credibility and highlighting the business, but also developing a personal brand that can be very useful and parlayed into different ventures and endeavors down the line. Yeah.
Well, on that note, when you said images, one of the biggest challenges with any content creation effort, whether it's in-house or in your case as an agency, is getting those images. Hey, we're doing this slice of the pie, but we need you to provide this other slice here. And there's this constant, at least my experience when I've done this in the past, like you're just hounding the client for that kind of.
Yeah.
How do you get that? How does that work for you efficiently to get that image? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are a few pieces. First of all, as part of onboarding, we ask clients to upload as many photos as possible. And then we get their permission to just use these photos. So lots of people, it's very common, and we'll encourage them if they haven't, but it's very common for founders to have already done a professional photo shoot, right? Because it's just, because they care about their social media presence, for their website. So sometimes it's a pretty easy layup of, hey, just upload it here, right? In this onboarding form, and then we can use it. And we'll tell you we're using it. We'll present the post and the photo. Like, we're not going to, like, you maintain control. We're not going to surprise you, but this makes things easier. And I think look, when you start getting clients results, right, they become a lot more cooperative. Like, we have a client now, you've gotten her several leads. She was just invited to a local, not a conference, but some kind of ongoing Chamber of Commerce sponsored or something like that, networking event. And so when people see that, when the content goes out, they start getting compliments, they start getting results, they become more and more bought in. And there's a kind of like a positive feedback loop or a flywheel that spins. And then then when you come to them and you say, hey, you could use the following kind of photo here or media, they're much more likely to cooperate and oblige. Now, the inverse also, the opposite is also correct, right? If you have a client and you're struggling and you're not getting them good results, they're just not going to be very motivated to take time out of their busy day or whatever and to get you whatever you need.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, get clients really good results and they'll play really nice.
All right.
Easier said than done, but that's the formula.
Right? What was your hardest client to get results for, past or current, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, so I think I had I probably several over my career, so to speak. But for instance, I had someone who was like a very high end coach, so he charged hundreds of thousands of dollars, and worked with executives, CEOs, whatever. And it was an individual, so paying out of pocket. I mean, obviously someone who earned well, you can imagine, but paying out of pocket. And we got him a couple of leads, I think, but it was just very hard. It's like, it's a different beast. And yeah, so that didn't go too well. And it's interesting because I was actually the one that initiated the breakup, so to speak. After a few months, I kind of said, hey, I don't think I'm able to get you the results that would merit paying for this. And it's probably best for us to move on.
It's interesting your focus on results. So many agencies would be happy to just take their money and keep going. Where do you think that desire comes from for you? Like, for you to actually initiate that breakup? That's very rare. I don't think I'm.
Yeah. I think one piece is crippling self-esteem. I'm only half joking. I'm in a much better place now, but I just for good or for bad, I'm neurotically wired to want to offer value. So if someone is paying us thousands of dollars a month, I'm like, we got to deliver. Okay, this is serious, even if they can afford it, right? Even if they're running like a $7 million business. And this is actually not a huge, I mean, for some people that may sound like a lot of money, but for them, it's really not a lot of money. They could pay that in perpetuity, given the size of their business and revenue, and be fine. For me, there's almost something, I hesitate to use this word, sacred about it, right? Like, if you're giving me this money, then my or our responsibility is to get you results. And I think another side is just it's so much more enjoyable, right? Like we're now testing or piloting X or Twitter for a client, for an existing LinkedIn client. And in the past few weeks, got her like multiple leads. Got like the CEO of this client is under NDA, so I need to be careful what I share. But the founder of like a huge, like very, very reputable company followed her, and it's just fun. It just makes me more motivated. It makes the team more motivated. The clients, like I mentioned earlier, is more motivated. So getting results just feels really good.
Yeah. What are those results? You mentioned results. What does that look like? What does success look like for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the problem with success at least as it intersects with social media, is that some benefits can be very tangible and some benefits can be very squishy. And it's not necessarily that the tangible benefits are superior. So let me unpack that, because I just said quite a bit. So when we talk about tangible benefits, it's something that you can, it's for instance, it's, hey, I got this qualified lead. Ideally, they close it. We don't have control over whether they close the lead or not. Or, hey, I got a podcast invitation. Or, hey, I got invited to this networking event. Or, hey, I connected with someone ICP adjacent, right? Like connected with a fractional CMO, and we made an agreement to refer clients to each other. So that's like very tangible. Then it's almost like a continuum of squishiness, right? Of like harder to quantify and qualify value, but still very meaningful. For instance, someone finds you outside of LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn did not generate that lead. It did not prompt their inquiry or them booking a discovery call. But one of the first things they said is, hey, I looked you up. I went to your LinkedIn and I was really impressed by the content and your profile. It looked really good. So it's impossible for you to say, hey, and let's say that person converts. It's impossible for you to say, well, the LinkedIn content accounted for 27.3% of their decision to close. You're never going to have access to that data and information. There are other squishier benefits, like team. We have clients where we talk about culture and we highlight team members or kind of, and that helps with retention. When your employees go on LinkedIn and they see that you as the founder, the CEO, whatever, are praising them, are showing gratitude and appreciation, they kind of go, oh, wow, like this is really cool. How do you quantify that, right? Or how do you quantify, like, let's say you're a founder now and you sign with us, and in 5 years, you're going to exit. Okay, 5 years, you're going to sell your company. And we've helped you all this time. We've helped you build this brand on LinkedIn. And then you use that for some kind of future exit. How do you quantify that? It's very hard to quantify these things. And I think that's a problem with marketing in general, and more specifically LinkedIn. There's value that's going to be very tangible and easy to quantify, right? Like what we started doing, I'll give you an example, is you put a bit.ly link. So we put a bit.ly link shortener for every client's CTA on their profile, right? Let's say it's book an appointment, book a discovery call. So now we can track. We can see, hey, every month we're getting you X clicks. We can report against that. That's really valuable. But again, there are other metrics where we just don't have access to it, and so yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So wrap things up here. What's something you see, a mistake you see in your niche for people in the content world? And I think it'd be good for you to say, because you've a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, Ben? I really appreciate how you're real about your process you shared today. You're transparent. I can see that. That's why I love reading your posts and learning from you. So what's one thing, you can give it to them straight, other content marketers, especially for LinkedIn, like, especially folks that might be new to it. It's up to you. What's one tip you can give to other content marketers on LinkedIn?
So I think there are two tendencies that are problematic. I think one tendency is to be too vulnerable, to say, hey, there's something that feels cathartic or meaningful about being super vulnerable on social media, right? Really sharing struggles. And also it gets eyeballs. People really like vulnerability, right? And I think the other end of that is, hey, I'm going to show zero personality, right? Like I'm never going to open up about anything other than work. It's going to be purely professional. And I think both are mistaken. I think there's a happy medium where you put out some idiosyncrasies, right? You allow some of your personality to shine through, even when you're talking about your expertise or results or whatever. Or even sometimes you share some personal content, but you do it in a tasteful way. So you capitalize, you leverage that very basic human element of, hey, I want to get to know this person better. I'm not just interested in their business expertise or the results. I actually want to get to know the human behind that. And that could be very powerful in humanizing your brand and a differentiator. Because if I have two people on LinkedIn, one of them is sharing case studies and whatever, something I'm interested in, or both of them sharing really great case studies, but one of them is showing their values, letting people in a bit as like who they are, I'm probably going to go with a person who's showing some of them their personality, letting that shine through, because I probably will find something that I connect with them over.
As long as
right?
those values are attractive to you, right? There's always that. There's always
that, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but yeah. So I think that your humanity, your personality, your character, your idiosyncrasies, your quirks, I think they can all be very interesting differentiators and powerful differentiators. But you don't want to go too right. A good heuristic is share scar tissue, don't share wounds. Right. So if you've that's not mine. I think that's Brene Brown's. So something awful happened. You corrected for it. You change your process. You can now comfortably say, hey, we're in a better place. That's okay. But if you're in the thick of it, right? If you're going through a divorce, don't talk about it on social media. If your company is imploding for whatever reason and you just need time to figure this, don't share, wait, it's okay. You don't have to share it.
You don't have to share it right away. This is not like a news reporter. You could share it Sunday.
Correct. Yeah.
What I tell folks is share it when you have a lesson.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Or when you can demonstrate that you're in a better place, right?
Yeah. Very cool. Well, Ben, thank you for being here today. It was good to learn from you. I feel like we could keep talking, and I might have you on again and just talk about some of these things more.
Sure. This is fun.
And where can people learn about you more?
So LinkedIn, Ben A. Wise. Excuse me. That's my handle. And then also our website, story.studio. So it's spelled STORYD.studio.
All right. Thanks for being here, Ben.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.